In the fall of 1980, a dangerous rogue grizzly bear was on the warpath in Glacier National Park. It had already chased 3 hikers up a tree and torn open their backpacks in search for food. Then it turned its attention to a lone camper. With nothing but the thin canvas of the tent to protect him, 33-year-old Lawrence Gordon was at the mercy of the ravenous bear. Hit like and subscribe. This is Fierce. FierceOutdoor.com is your place to be for the best outdoor gear. We're not just about adventures, we're about conquering them. From the deepest valleys to the highest peaks, our equipment is designed for those who dare to challenge the wild. Join the ranks of fearless explorers with gear from Fierce Outdoor. Link in description. In northwestern Montana, Glacier National Park encompasses more than 1 million acres. Within its mountainous landscape are more than 130 lakes and a pristine ecosystem that is home to more than 1,000 different species of plants and hundreds of species of animals. It was established as a park in 1910 and has been providing incredible vacation opportunities for millions of people since then. With its diverse wildlife, park visitors can expect to see the likes of bighorn sheep, elk, moose, mountain lion, mountain goats, gray wolf, wolverine, Canadian lynx, black bears, and grizzly bears. With large predators inhabiting the woodlands and open grasslands of the park, and so many people visiting each year, there was always going to be human-wildlife incidents. But in 1980, there was an unprecedented number of conflicts, and in just 3 months alone, 3 people were killed by bears in Glacier National Park. Management made changes after the Night of the Grizzlies, in which 2 women were killed in separate incidents on the same night. But despite these changes, there was more tragedy to come. In 1980, the 3 deaths caused by grizzlies in quick succession were cause for concern. First to be hunted and attacked were 22-year-olds Jane Emmerman and Kim Eberly, who were camping on a sandbar on Divide Creek. At 4 a.m. on July 24th, a grizzly ripped through their tent and killed both of them. Then a few weeks later, at Glens Lake, 3 hikers escaped up a tree when they were aggressively chased by a grizzly bear. They had flung their backpacks onto the ground and looked down from the branches as the bear tore through the material and devoured the snacks inside. They had been lucky to get out of the way in time, but despite reporting the incident, the rangers didn't do anything about the bear. It was only a matter of time before somebody else was killed in the park, and tragically, that turned out to be 33-year-old Lawrence Gordon. The young man had ventured to Glacier National Park toward the end of September 1980. He had been issued a backcountry camping permit, which allowed him to camp in the park from September 26th until September 29th. He was due to leave and head for home on the 30th, but sadly, that would never happen. With an apparent rogue bear on the loose, there was a real risk to lone campers in the area. More often than not, bears will turn the other way when they hear or see people approaching, but occasionally one will do just the opposite. Whether they have been conditioned to people by food or are actively hunting them due to problems catching their natural prey, these bears are considered extremely dangerous. Lawrence set up camp at the rugged northeast corner of Glacier National Park, 10 miles from the Canadian border. He erected his tent close to the shore of Elizabeth Lake. Surrounded by mountains reflected in its mirror-like surface, the lake was an incredibly scenic spot to camp. But nobody knows exactly what happened to Lawrence, but the following is a possibility based on evidence found at the scene and knowledge of other bear attacks. Lawrence used the spot by Elizabeth Lake as a base, allowing him to hike some of the surrounding trails each day. But his presence didn't go unnoticed. Along the shoreline ambled a large grizzly bear. It had spotted Lawrence's tent and smelled the food he had been cooking from downwind. Lawrence was out hiking at the time. He was unaware that a grizzly bear was investigating his campsite. When he returned that evening, he cooked his meal, staring out over the lake and up at the starlit sky. He tidied his things away and turned in for the night. As the final embers of the fire died down, Lawrence drifted off to sleep in his sleeping bag. But he wasn't alone. The bear had returned. It had smelled the cooking once more and came back to investigate. Unaware of the approaching grizzly, Lawrence remained sound asleep. Only when the bear let out a low growl did Lawrence open his eyes and sit bolt upright. He had definitely heard a noise right outside his tent, just the other side of the canvas, inches from his face. He held his breath. There it was again, a deep grumble and then a loud sniff. The bear was sniffing around the tent. It was attracted by the smell of food, the remnants of Lawrence's meal he had eaten hours earlier. Suddenly, it slashed at the side of the tent with its long, sharp claws, ripping open a gaping hole, and Lawrence came face to face with the enormous bear. He could smell its breath when it stuck its head inside the tent, and it immediately launched itself onto him. Lawrence instinctively fought back, but he was trapped inside his sleeping bag. He was unable to free himself and could only hit and punch the bear in the face as it bit into him over and over. The attack was rapid and ferocious. The power from the bear's claws as they dug into his flesh was immense, and he could feel the weight of the animal on top of him, threatening to crush him underneath. The bear growled as it savaged the young camper. The damage was devastating, and within minutes, Lawrence had succumbed to his injuries. He had died alone, and sadly, his body wouldn't be discovered for another few days. The bear dragged Lawrence from his tent and towards the nearby conifer trees. There, it tucked into him, as it would do with its normal prey. Park officials were called to the site when his body was discovered by fellow hikers days later in October. Clyde Lockwood, the park's chief naturalist, reported that Lawrence's body was badly mutilated and had clearly been partially consumed by the bear. Rangers immediately began searching for the bear responsible. 2 days later, and 6 miles from where Lawrence was found, a large female grizzly was shot and killed by rangers. She weighed 379 pounds, or 170 kilograms. At the time, it was uncertain whether she was the bear responsible for Lawrence's death. She wore a tag on her left ear indicating that she had been considered a nuisance bear before and had been relocated from the Swift Current area 2 years earlier in 1978. She matched the description provided by the hikers who had escaped up a tree only weeks before. Experts were planning on evaluating droppings and track marks left at Lawrence's campsite to determine if the female brown bear that was shot was the same one. She was sent to the state laboratory at the University of Montana in Bozeman for an autopsy. There, they also analyzed the teeth and claws to see if they matched the marks on Lawrence's body. They found that a tooth mark left on one of Lawrence's books matched the tooth of that grizzly perfectly. Lawrence was the third person to be attacked and killed by bears in just 3 months, but he was only the 6th in the park's 71-year history. Following these deaths, park officials planned to make changes to protect their visitors. This included forbidding anyone to travel alone in bear country during certain times of the year. Bears are far less likely to attack people in groups compared to lone individuals. It was determined that park officials were sometimes too lenient when it came to troublesome bears. Rangers often waited until a bear had become aggressive before stepping in. Sometimes bears that had displayed worrying behavior had been relocated rather than destroyed, as was the case with the bear that killed Lawrence. Protecting both people and wildlife was proving challenging.